Okay, so I am just going to quickly go through the document cleanup homework assignment with you. I'm going to be using a different file than the one that you'll actually be turning in. So this is just to demonstrate the things that you're supposed to do and to give you an idea of what some of these mean. Some of them can be kind of tricky, so I hope this helps. Okay, the first thing that it asks you to do is to make sure that all the margins are exactly 6 picas. So remember that there are 6 picas in 1 inch. Word automatically, by default, uses inches as its primary unit of measure. I don't know that you can even make it points and picas, but in more sophisticated typesetting, points and picas are the standard, and so it's good to get familiar with those. To change or to see what the margins are in this document, we're going to come up to Format, and we'll go to Document, and I can see the margins here. So top is 1, bottom is 1, and remember 6 picas to 1 inch, so those are fine, but we need to change the left and the right margin to 1 inch as well. So I'll do that, and I will hit OK. Next thing is to make all the text in an old style serif font. So right now I am using Arial 12 point. So I need to change all of this text to old style serif. It gives examples: Arno Pro, Minion Pro, Garamond, or Palatino. Let's do Garamond. So I'm going to click inside the body text here and hit Command A, and that selects all the text in this paper except for the footnotes. I'll have to do this twice. And I'll come up to the font menu and I will start typing Garamond, and I'll hit enter. And that changes all this text to Garamond. It doesn't specify the size yet, so we'll just change it to Garamond and leave that be. And then I'll put my cursor in one of the footnotes and hit Command A, and that will highlight all of the footnotes. So once those are highlighted, I'll come back up here to my font menu and select Garamond, hit enter, and now all of my footnotes are in Garamond as well. So that is done. Alright, the next thing that we need to do is a bunch of find and replace functions. The first one is to remove extra hard returns before or after paragraphs or at the end of the document. Extra hard returns occur whenever I have 2 instances of a hard return in a row. So this is a good example, here and here. Remember, I never need to have 2 hard returns when I'm typesetting. It's a lazy habit that we're all in. But when we're doing sophisticated typesetting, we never want to fall into it. So I'm going to remove all those using find and replace. So I hit Command F, and that brings up my find and replace dialog. Now if you are using the newer version of Word, 2011, it's the one we use in the classroom. I happen to be using an older version here at home. When you hit Command F, a little window, a search bar right here will highlight, and it will, have a cursor in there so you can find something. What you want to do is click the little down arrow that's right to the left of that search bar and click, I think it'll say something like advanced options, or might even just say replace. I think it's the bottom option in that menu. At that point, a little bar column will open here to the left, and you'll see a small gear wheel. Click the gear wheel and then select advanced find and replace, and you'll see this window. If you have the 2011 version of Word for Mac at home, you can set it so that when you hit Command F, it brings you directly to this window, which is what I've done at work. You can just Google those instructions. It's pretty easy to do. Okay, so I want to look for every instance of 2 hard returns and replace it with 1 hard return. So I'm going to click this little down arrow, and in my Find What field, I'm going to go Special and Paragraph Mark, and notice how that puts this little caret P, that's the symbol for paragraph mark, and I want to find instances of 2 and replace it with 1. Now when I do that, I will hit, oops, and see how I have a space in front of that. I want to make sure that I have no other formatting in this replace field, so it's just that caret P. I'll hit Replace All, and it tells me that there were 31 replacements made. So, actually 32, because my cursor was somewhere else in the document. I'll run that one more time just to make sure that I have them all, and see how it found 2 more replacements. What's happening there is every instance of 2 paragraph marks, it's turning into 1. So if I have 3 in a row, or more than 2 in a row, it's only consolidating 2 of those and replacing them with 1. So sometimes you'll have to run this command again and again until you get to 0. So there I have 1, and there I have 1. Now what will happen sometimes, especially with the hard return commands, is you'll have multiple hard returns at the end of your document, which I do here, and for some reason it just won't replace these with 1. So I'm just going to manually take one of those hard returns out. Okay, so that's the hard returns. The next thing I need to do is replace all instances of 2 spaces with 1 space. Bad typesetting, we have 2 spaces after each period. That's old-fashioned, it's unnecessary, and we want to get rid of every instance of that. So what I'm going to do is open my find and replace again, delete the paragraph marks, and I'm just going to hit the space bar twice. 1, 2, to find 2 spaces, and I'm going to replace it with 1 space. So I hit the space bar once, and I hit replace all, and it made 78 replacements, and I'll try it one more time, and it made 0 replacements, so I know I'm good there. Next one is to delete all tabs and replace with a first line indent. I have my paragraphs set with a tab character instead of a first line indent. Now a tab is a formatting character. It's a formatting feature. A first line indent is a paragraph attribute. And a first line indent gives you some more flexibility, and it makes it easier for you to adjust the exact indent of that first line that you want and then apply it very easily across all paragraphs. So we're going to get rid of all of these tabs. It's worth pointing out that I have my non-printing characters showing by hitting this little pilcrow at the top of the window. That's the only way I could know that this first line indent is set with a tab instead of a hard return. If I turn those off, is set with a tab instead of a first line indent. If I turn those off, I can't see what's going on. So always good to have those on. To get rid of all the tabs, I'm going to go to my find and replace. I'm going to type ~T, and I'm just going to replace with nothing. Now it's important to delete the space that you have from your last find and replace. See how there's that little blue highlight there? I want to make sure that's deleted so that there's nothing in the replace with field. So I'm going to look for all tabs and replace it with nothing. That'll just delete them. So I'll hit replace all, and that's great. I'll try it one more time, and it's 0 replacement, so that's good. Notice now that none of my paragraphs have a first line indent. So what I need to do is highlight my paragraphs. Now I could do this paragraph by paragraph, but I'm just going to highlight everything from introduction down, and I'm just going to apply a first line indent to all of it. Okay, so I'm highlighting every paragraph except for the title and the author, and I'm just going to go to Format and Paragraph, and I'm going to look at my indentation section of this dialog box, and under Special I can change this drop down to say First Line, and I want to replace with a first line indent. Now it doesn't give me the exact size of that first line indent, so right now let's just leave it at 1/2 inch by default. I'll hit OK. And now I have that first line indent for every paragraph there. So that's great. Next thing is to replace double hyphens with em dashes. Notice here's an example where I have 2 hyphens instead of an em dash. Again, that's bad typesetting, it's lazy, and it's not what we want. So find and replace. I'm going to look for 2 hyphens, so I type in 2 hyphens, and I'm going to replace it with em dashes. So under Special, I can find the em dash, or I can type ~+ if I know that that's the symbol, I guess, for an em dash. With this instance, I know I want every instance of 2 hyphens to become em dashes because 2 hyphens is never appropriate in typesetting. So I'll just hit replace all. It made 11 replacements. Try it one more time, and it made 0. So that's done. Next one is to replace hyphens with en dashes, but critically for numbers or date ranges only. I'll look for hyphens, just a single hyphen, and I'll replace it with an en dash, which is a caret and an equal sign. Now, if I were to hit replace all here, I'd be in trouble. It would replace any instance where I have a hyphen with an en dash. So what if I have the word self-confidence, a hyphenated compound? It would instead of making it self-confidence, it would replace it with self-confidence, which is wrong. That's not, according to Chicago style at least, and probably a lot of other styles. So I need to look at each of these individually. So here I have non-mass marketed, that should stay a hyphen. Freestanding should stay a hyphen. Man of the world, world famous, Austria shop, native language, attention seeking. You can see I have quite a few of these, and they should all be hyphens so far. What I will do is actually click inside my footnotes, because I imagine that's where I'm going to see instances where I need to find n dashes. So I'll pull up find and replace again, and again I'm looking for hyphens and n dashes, which is a caret and a plus or an equal sign. So I'll look for the next one, and right here, January 41 through 61, that one should be an n dash, so I'll just hit replace, not replace all. Automatically takes me to the next one, which is 153 to 160, should be an n dash. Again, I'll hit replace, and 41 through 61, 153, 10 to 15, 160 to 170, etc. So I'm just replacing all of these hyphens with n dashes. You won't be able to just turn your brain off. You'll have to look at each individual instance of a hyphen and decide, should this be an n dash? If you have questions, you can consult the Chicago Manual of Style, 16th edition. It's available online through the BYU Library. There's a great section on n dashes in there if you are wondering when it's appropriate to use one. Okay, the next one is to take out spaces around hyphens, n dashes, and m dashes. Chicago style says to not put spaces around hyphens, n dashes, and m dashes. So we're going to take them out. The way that we need to look for this is to look for every instance that could possibly happen. So one instance that may happen is I have a space before a hyphen. So I type the space bar and then a hyphen. I want to replace that with a single hyphen. Now, again, it may be okay just to hit replace all, but I'm curious to know if I have any of these. So it's not in the footnotes, it doesn't happen, it looks like, but if I go to my main body text and I hit space hyphen, I can see it in instances like this. Carry over to non-mass marketed advertising. I want to replace that one. And it appears that that may be the only one, so that's good. Next, I want to look for instances where there may be a hyphen and then a space. So I hit the hyphen and then the space bar right after it. I'll find next, and I do have a couple of these, so I'll hit replace, and that could be it. I'm going to do the same thing with m dashes and n dashes, looking for every possibility just like I've demonstrated here. I'm not going to do that in this video, but you will have to do that for your assignment. Alright, the next thing is to replace straight single quotes with curved single quotes. What we mean by that is, let me look for one here. Right here is an apostrophe. I suppose you could also call it a single quote. But notice how it's straight up and down. We're used to seeing apostrophes or open quotation marks or closed quotation marks that are curly. Let's see if I can find a double here. Let me zoom out a little bit and look and see. Okay, so in my footnotes there are quite a few of them. They're straight up and down. The way to replace these involves having to go into your settings in Word and then doing a find and replace. So what I'm going to do is go up to my formatting menu and select, oops, I better put my cursor in here, select auto format. I'm going to go to my options, and notice that I have all of the check marks under apply unchecked. You'll want to do that, and we'll want to make sure that this box, straight quotes with smart quotes, is selected. Now what this is saying is that Word is going to auto format straight quotes with smart quotes. If you're using the newer version of Word, the wording might be a little bit different, but it will be similar. And I want to make sure that my straight quotes turn into smart quotes, so I want to have that box checked. I have to find that same thing in another space, and that is under Tools and Autocorrect. It's a shame that you have to find it in two places, but you do. We want to go to Auto Format as you type, And again, select straight quotation marks with smart quotation marks. That needs to be selected. And I always have these apply as you type unselected, just so that sometimes if those are selected and if the similar menu options are selected in the previous dialog box that we looked at, when you hit OK, a lot of things that you didn't intend could happen to your document, and it's just kind of irritating. So we'll hit OK. And now all I have to do is, and see, it kind of looks like it changed them anyway, even though I didn't mean for that to happen. What's happened here likely is that there's some setting in Word that automatically changed it once I hit OK. Notice, however, though, that it did not change in my footnotes. I still have straight quotes there. So let's click inside the footnotes just for this demonstration. Open my Find and Replace. If I want to replace all of my double quotes, straight double quotes, with curly double quotes, all I'm going to do is type double quotes into the Find field. So just Shift and the key next to the return key. And then I'm going to type the exact same thing in the Replace field. So Shift and the key next to the return key are just what you always use for double quotes. There's no difference in what I typed in the Find and the Replace. The way that Word knows to replace these straight quotes with smart quotes is because I changed the menu options in my auto formatting and my formatting options in Word. So I'll hit Replace All, and notice now in my footnotes I have curly quotes. You want to do that in the body text, in the footnotes, and you want to do it for single quotes and straight quotes. The process is the same. Okay, the next one is to replace underlining with italics. Notice that in my footnotes, and maybe elsewhere in the document here, for example, I have this underlining. And underlining is pretty ugly nowadays. There's not a big reason for it, so we want to replace it. I'm going to have my cursor here in my document, and I'm going to go to Find and Replace. And this time I'm not interested in a specific character, I'm not interested in a specific word or letter. I just want to look at the format. So I'm going to come down to the Format field here, and underlining and italics happen to be attributes of a font in Word, so I'm going to click the Font menu. And that brings up this dialog box. Now I want to find all instances of underlining. I'm going to leave font style, and size totally blank because, again, I don't care what font it is, I don't care what style it is, I don't care what size it is. All I care is that it's underlined. So I'm going to go to this Underline drop-down menu, and I'm going to select this thin underline stroke. You have to be familiar enough with your document to know what types of underline or what types of underlines are being used. If, for example, the author of this document used some dashed underlines or some squiggly underlines or something like that, you would need to know that. You'd need to perform different find and replaces for each of those instances. I'm familiar with this document, and the only underlines that are used are this thin kind. So I'll hit select that thin underline for the underline style, and I'll hit OK. Now notice that Word tells me that I'm looking for underline format. That's good, just so we can keep things straight. I'll delete my replace field so it's totally blank. I'll come back to back to format and font. And now I want to replace it with italic. So I'll just select italic in the font style. Again, don't care what font it is, don't care what size, I just want to replace them all with italic. And critically, I need to go back to underline style and make sure that I select none. If I don't do this, my text will be Word will find all the underlined text, make it italic, but leave it underlined, and that's not what I want. I want the underline to go away, so I'm saying replace it with no underline and make it italic. I'll hit OK and hit Replace All. Notice when I do that, the text that was underlined is now italicized, and it made 26 replacements, which is quite a bit. Okay. Next one is to use properly spaced ellipses. Use Option Shift Spacebar for non-breaking spaces. You may be asking yourself, what is a non-breaking space? A non-breaking space tells Word not to break a certain, or not to break two words or some compound word or some series of characters over a line. Right here, for example, I have the case. Let's pretend that for some reason I did not want that to break over a line. A good example that this may happen in addition to ellipses is first and last names, or like Dr. Jones. Sometimes you don't want Doctor to appear at the end of this line and then Jones to appear at the end of this line. You can insert a non-breaking space there to make sure that the line is never broken in that area, in that place. To insert a non-breaking space, you just use Option and then the Shift bar. Notice when I do that, the and case will be on the same line. So Option, spacebar, and word will not break these two words apart with this space. You can see the little symbol there is like a, let's see, is a little space symbol, the little dot, but with a squiggle above it. So that's how you know it's a non-breaking space. I will undo that and come back to find and replace. Now I want to look for the ellipses that Word automatically makes, which I'll actually demonstrate here. Anytime in Word you type 3 periods in a row, it auto-formats it into this one ellipses character. And I know it's one character because if I hit my arrow keys and I try to put my cursor in between those periods or those dots, it won't do it. It's an auto-formatted ellipsis, it's one character, and according to a lot of styles, it's not a properly formatted ellipsis, unfortunately. So we're going to look for every instance of those and replace it with a properly spaced one using non-breaking spaces. Again, we want non-breaking spaces because we would never want an ellipsis that looks like this, that may have the first 2 dots on one line and the 3rd dot on the next line. That would be a real disaster. So find and replace. I need to clear my last find and replace because now I don't care about underlining, so I'm going to hit no formatting with my cursor in the find what field, and I'm going to hit no formatting with my cursor in the replace what field to just kind of reset these fields. I'm going to look for the auto-formatted ellipses that Word uses, and I'm going to make that, I'm going to enter that by hitting down Option and then a semicolon. That happens to be the keystroke for one of those ellipses. And, or for one of those ellipsis, I've probably used the wrong singular plural a lot of times in this video, so I apologize for that. And I'm going to replace it with a period. Well, sorry, with a non-breaking space first. So I'm holding down Option and then the space bar, and then I'm hitting the period key, and then I'm holding down Option space bar, period, Option spacebar, period, Option spacebar. This is a properly formatted ellipsis using non-breaking spaces. So I will hit replace all, and there was only one in the document. Alright, that concludes the find and replace section. Now, on the back of the assignment sheet, we're going to start kind of styling this text to look the way that we want it to look. So let's begin at the top. The next criterion in the assignment is to create styles and properly apply them for each of the elements listed below. So we'll come back to that, and we'll skip to body paragraphs. I want to make all the body paragraphs my font that I chose at 10 point and line spacing at 15 point, and then have every paragraph indented consistently with the first line indent at 2 picas. Alright, so what that means is I need to start with my first paragraph here and change the font to 10 points. So I'm going to highlight this paragraph and change my font to 10 points. Now in my version of Word I can do it in my handy little formatting palette, but I think that may have gone away in the newer version of Word. I'm actually not sure, but just to be safe, we'll do it up here. I'm just going to change my font size to 10, and I'm going to hit OK. And then it says line spacing at 15 points. Now line spacing is a paragraph attribute, so I can adjust that under Format and Paragraph. And the line spacing section is right here. Right now it's double spaced, which we're all familiar with. We can be a lot more precise than just single, 1.5, and double spacing. If I click the drop down and hit exactly, I can make my line spacing exactly 15 points. Hit OK. And that is what that looks like, which is good. Last thing I want to do is make sure that every paragraph is indented consistently with the first line indent at 2 picas. I'm going to go back to my paragraph dialog box, And this time I'm going to use the key command, which is Option Command M. And I'm going to change this first line indent to 2 picas. Now remember, if 6 picas is 1 inch, 2 picas is 1/3 of an inch, right? So I'm just going to hit 0.33. And now that adjusted how far that first line indent comes in. Okay, back to that styles criterion. It says create and properly apply styles for each of the elements listed below. Styles are awesome. And they save you a lot of time. Now that I have this paragraph styled the way that I want it, in other words, it's the right font, it's the right size, the line spacing is correct, the first line indent is correct, it's got everything I want, I can create a style that will house all of those attributes so that I can quickly apply it to other similar paragraphs in my document. So if you open your formatting palette, which if you don't see it, you can open with this little button at the top of your window. Open that and you should have a section that's called Styles. Again, I'm using an older version of Word. You can click the little Pilcrow button that shows up in this palette, and that should show your styles. We're going to, with this paragraph selected or with just your cursor blinking in this paragraph, hit New Style. And we're going to name it, and let's name it Body Paragraphs, just so it's the exact same as the assignment sheet. Now what I always do is put an underscore as the first character. I'll show you why in just a second. Body Paragraph. And because I have this paragraph selected, it pulls in all the attributes that are already applied to that paragraph. So my font is Garamond, my size is 10. If I come down to my Format drop-down and select Paragraph, I'll see that my line spacing is exactly 15. My first line indent is 2 picas or 1/3 of an inch, everything that I already applied. So I don't have to change anything or worry about that. All I need to do is name it and hit OK. Now the reason that I do an underscore as the first character is because Word automatically alphabetizes your styles list, and you can see that there are a lot of styles that are in here just by default. You can't delete the default styles, and so I like to have the styles that I've created be the first ones that show up, and to do that I put an underscore at the first. That way I'm not searching through this list for whatever I happen to name my particular style. All of mine just show up right at the beginning. Okay, once I have my style set, now I can just click, have my cursor blinking in the next paragraph, select my paragraph style that I created, and all of those same attributes are applied. Do the next one, and again, all of those same attributes are applied. You will go through your entire document and do this for every body text paragraph that is used. Now, not every paragraph is a body text paragraph. We'll see as we get down here that we have, it looks like a block quote and different things like that. So again, being familiar with your document is very important, but these paragraph styles really help to speed things up. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is format my footnotes. And notice how I didn't run my find and replace for extra paragraph marks, extra hard returns. Really, I didn't run a lot of my find and replace fields in my footnotes, which I should have, and you should for your assignment. For purposes of this demonstration, I'm not going to go back and do all that again, but just be sure that you format your footnotes and clean them up as well. Okay, so for footnotes, I'm going to have the same font as the main text. Oops. Alright, let's see. Let's get rid of those. Okay, I'm going to have the same font as the main text, which is Garamond, but I'm going to have it be 8 point. So let's change this to Garamond and 8 point. Oops, and see how I just need to highlight my footnote there. Do Garamond and 8 points. And then the line spacing is exactly 13 points. Again, I'm using the key command, which is Option Command M, to bring up my paragraph dialog box. Change my line spacing to exactly, what is it? It's 13 points. So let's just bump that up by 1 and hit Enter. So this is a properly formatted footnote. I'll come back and make a style for it. So I'll hit New Style, and I'll name it, again, underscore footnotes, and just hit OK. Again, it's pulling in all the attributes that I've already assigned to this paragraph, and now I can just highlight all of these other footnotes and select footnotes to style them accordingly. So it's super easy, and it's really a handy thing to know how to do. And again, something that a lot of people don't really either know exists in Word or they don't take advantage of it, but I promise you, I use it every single day in my job. It makes my job a lot faster. Super handy. Okay, the next one is to style our block quote. So let's find the block quote in this example, which happens to be right here. And this one, if I highlight it, says same font as main text but 9 points. So Garamond is already there. I'm going to make it 9 points. And then line spacing is exactly 14. So I'll come here and say exactly 14. Paragraph spacing 6 points before, 10 points after. This is something we haven't covered yet. So I'm going to open my paragraph dialog box again. My spacing before and after is right here. So it says to make it 6 points before and 10 points after. And then the next thing is to indent all block quotes to the left 2 picas and to the right 2 picas and take away the first line indent. Indentation is here, so to the left is 2 picas, which again is 1/3 of an inch. The right is 2 picas, which is 1/3 of an inch, and then no first line indent. So I'm just going to select none from that drop down. Now if I hit OK, took away my first line indent, it indented on both sides, and it added a little bit of space after and a little bit of space before. So that's perfect. Don't forget to make your style here. So I'm just going to hit new style, underscore, block quote, and hit OK. Shows up in my styles list, so that's perfect. Next one is headings. So I know I have a heading right at the beginning, introduction here, so I'm going to highlight that. Same as body text, but bold. So Garamond and 10 points, and bold. It's already bold, so that's good. Left aligned with no first line indent. So I have it left aligned, which I'm pointing to here, and no first line indent. So again, I'm just going to come to my paragraph dialog box using Option Command M. I use that keystroke a lot. And I'm going to say no first line indent. Hit OK, and now that moves all the way over. Paragraph spacing 24 points before. Oops, I forgot to do that. I could have done that with this dialog box open as well, but I didn't. So I'm going to have 24 points before. And I'll hit OK. Next one is author, which is here. Same as body text, but italic. So Garamond 10, and not bold, but italic. Left aligned. Right now it's centered, so I want to left align it with no first line indent. So it looks like there's not one, but I'll double check. Option Command M, and where I would have a first line indent says none, so that works. Don't forget to make your style, which I will call this author. Oops, and I've been lowercasing these. And I did forget to make my style for my subhead, so don't forget to do that too. Every one of these needs to have a style. So what I did was just put my cursor back in the subhead paragraph, make sure it pulls in all those attributes, and hit OK. The last one is the title. So I'll highlight the title, and it says same font as body text but 7 points and bold. I think that should be 17 points. It's got to be a typo. If you do 7 points, you'll get the points for it as well. But in this demonstration, we'll make it 17 points, just so it's bigger than the body text, which makes sense. Okay, same font as body text, which is Garamond, but I'm going to make this 17 points. And bold, which it already is. Line spacing is going to be 20 points. So instead of double, let's make it exactly 20. Left aligned with no first line indent, so none, that's good. And then paragraph spacing is 36 points after. And we'll left align it. So there it is. Last thing we'll do is make our paragraph style for it, so underscore and title, and OK. And that's basically it. I haven't gone through this whole document and applied my styles like I could. If I come to my next subhead, I can apply that style. I have some second level subheads here. That's not a part of your assignment. You can apply just your subhead paragraph style there if you like. But that gives you the basics of how to complete your document cleanup assignment. This is critical when you're cleaning up text to bring into InDesign. As an editor, you want to have your text as clean as possible, and it's easy to do that in Word just with a little bit of time and a little bit of know-how, and I hope this is helpful.